Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.
Hello and welcome back to Undercurrent. I'm Kirsty Mollica. Well, I must say here at WTV, we are truly privileged to be invited to some truly extraordinary events like the very recent NAIDOC Awards. Next up, Nikita Dixon investigates all the winners.
NAIDOC Week right around the corner, we stopped by the NAIDOC Awards to honour some of the amazing talent residing in our Indigenous community. So how long have you been preparing for this event?
Well, the nominations started in February, and then before that, of course, we had to get all the eligibility and choose the criteria, and I think we did that actually late last year. So yeah, probably a good 6 months.
This is actually the first time that the awards is a solo event, not part of the opening ceremony. You know, how enthusiastic are people about this?
We didn't have many tickets for sale, but nearly everyone that we invited came. It's really lovely to lift the prestige and give people who have achieved so much the recognition that they deserve. So no, it's really been well received. And it's all about promoting positive stories of Aboriginal people and success of Aboriginal people and confronting those negative stereotypes.
Last few years I've been working through AB Music, which is a college for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and through that AB Music has inspired me to become the best artist I could be, and also through that I've been able to help many other talented artists, and looking up to all the wonderful Indigenous artists here in WA. They've helped me progress and build an image that I am basically today.
Athletics takes up a lot of my time, and then I'm doing a triple major at uni as well, and I do own a bakery on top of that, so I'm really busy, but it's really rewarding, so it's all worth it at the end. My parents taught me to be really strong and independent and really involved within my community, so when I was young it was really easy for me to fall into the wrong traps, and my idols got me through a lot of hard times and put me into my sport, so if I can change just one person's life through inspiring them to stay in school and to do their sport, then I've done my job.
I do workshops with various groups and I just give them a bit of history, then I give them information about the present, how they both relate, and then how to use cultural information in the workplace, in their jobs, that sort of thing.
And what inspired you to start the business in the first place?
You want an honest answer?
Sure, go ahead.
Got sick of government.
Yeah?
I'd been doing training for quite a while. I've done training in government and outside, and decided that the best thing I could do is what I know, that I can just come straight out of my head without having to learn anything. And teaching people how to work with Aboriginal people was a natural progression from government.
I worked as a kindergarten teacher at first, and then I went into the education and worked on a program that trained Aboriginal people in working in kindergartens. And I did that for, I don't know how many years. It was a wonderful program and I enjoyed the work. It took me right across Western Australia. There's lots of opportunities, it's just that we have to encourage our children to sort of stay at it.
Hancock Prospecting has a long association with NAIDOC and also with the Indigenous community. We have a strong commitment to Indigenous capacity building, and not just in the form of employment but also in community services. We like to sponsor to provide an opening, an opportunity for people to really thrive and branch out and achieve more.
The next thing we have is the opening ceremony. Well, actually before that we're compiling the program of events. I think we have about 40 events happening in Perth in NAIDOC Week this year. It goes off in Perth, which is fantastic. So that's nearing completion. And then we have our opening ceremony. So because we've taken the awards out of the opening ceremony this year, it's just going to be a big festival. We've got Troy Cassadaly coming, and we've got 2 stages, and we've got the big top. So we're hoping that thousands and thousands of people will come for that.
On behalf of all of us at the Undercurrent team, we would love to congratulate the winners and finalists for the NAIDOC Awards tonight. I'm Nikita Dixon.
Well, it's a common held thought that getting a gig working on the mines is pretty easy, but it might appear that that is not true. With a company here in Western Australia saying they have around 1,000 prospective mine workers currently unemployed, and the government allowing companies to employ workers from overseas. Fernanda Mizzen investigates.
The mining industry has around 240,000 directly and 6,000 indirectly employed workers. It is expected more 92,000 jobs to be created in the next 5 years. With so many positions available, the government and the mining companies start to looking for overseas workers with the skills they need.
I think the mining companies are approaching a lot of companies or a lot of people overseas to fill these skilled tradesman positions because it's a simple solution. I don't blame them, and I think it is something that we're going to need to do eventually. But like our company, for example, BLH, we've got, as I said, over 1,000 people ready to go. How many other companies like that are there in Australia? So I think we just need to examine a little bit more what we have here before we go over there.
But without these migrant workers, a lot of these projects wouldn't commence. And with the help of migrant workers, a lot of them which are going on temporary visas that will allow to give Australians more opportunities of jobs in years to come. Some of these projects are lasting, up to 20 years, some individual projects. So in the long term, it gives Australian workers a lot of opportunity.
There's a lot of tradespeople in Australia that have done apprenticeships in Australia and are more than qualified to work on these resource industry projects. But the mining companies require them to have resource industry experience. I think that can be alleviated by using something similar to what the construction industry has done here in WA, which is a training fund. And I think that perhaps the resource industry here should have some sort of training fund so that we can upskill the people that have already got the training to give them the mining related skills that the mining companies would accept, then get them onto the sites and let them get those jobs instead of going overseas.
There's a lot of things that are being done. Some of these things people are not aware of. However, there are many employers within Australia that have dedicated apprenticeship and traineeship programs. The federal government with AMA have launched the Australian Women's Resources Alliance to try and bring more women through into the sector. And there's also many apprenticeship and traineeship programs currently taking place.
The biggest problem with getting people and workers or tradespeople up to the Pilbara region of Western Australia is the amount of time it takes by using the current carriers and their schedules. So a lot of the people that would be doing fly-in, fly-out, let's say they've got to come from Wollongong in New South Wales. The big issue is the amount of time it takes by using a Qantas or someone like that. I mean, they could take a whole day to get across there. So what we've done is we've aligned ourselves with a charter aviation company, and we can take 84 people at once, or workers at once, and actually deliver them from anywhere in Australia to anywhere in the Pilbara within 6 hours. So we've cut down on that time. So it's just a creative way to make it more appealing for workers over east to come and work in WA.
So this industry is bracing itself for a peak labour demand of around about 85,000 in 2013. In resource-related construction roles. So we're trying very hard to keep up with this demand, and this is where the temporary migrants are required to be able to keep these projects running.
There's a myriad of small towns over east that we could fly into and pick up 100 workers at once and deliver them up to the Pilbara quickly and bring them back. Yeah, and I don't see anyone else doing that at the moment. As a matter of fact, if it works out the way we think it will, the charter aviation company that we've hooked up with have said they'll allocate more aircraft to the program. So, yeah, I think it's something that we all have to do more of.
The mining industry is growing. With the right training and skills, Australians can get the jobs first. I am Fernanda Mizin, reporting for Undercurrent.
Well, next up, our lovely friend Nick Hayes sits down for a chat with Rspca National President Lynn Bradshaw.
Lynn, thanks for joining Undercurrent. There are more and more media stories that are focusing on animal attacks, in particular dog attacks. Is it the owners that we should be looking at, or is it the breeds?
It's not the breed. Admittedly, there are some breeds, and again, the human being is developing specific breeds with certain traits, and there are some breeds, therefore, that might have the propensity to have intolerable behaviour. But on the whole, it isn't the breed. It's actually what we call the deed. And the traits that the dog's exhibiting are usually brought out by the things that we do with them, to them, or around them.
Is there anything that we can be doing to minimise these attacks?
Well, we've spent a lot of time looking at the animals and condemning the breed, if you like. What we should be doing is looking at the owners, looking at what level of training and understanding do they have. And you know, it's very pertinent, Nick, at the moment, because as we're getting much more knowledge around the science of animal behaviour, not just with dogs but across the board, we're becoming more informed ourselves. All of a sudden the lights go on and we've got the potential to actually do something really good. But we should not be in a position where we're condemning animals to death purely because of their behaviour, when we can rehabilitate, or we could stop the problem in the first place.
Only 12 months ago, the farming community wouldn't have been big fans of the Rspca, in particular the cattle producers. Where are they now with the Rspca, and are you talking to them?
You know, Nick, we've always spoken to all of the producers. And yes, last year I think that we perhaps were considered to be a little bit on the nose. Most people in the industry, though, know the Rspca, they know what we stand for. We know that we're not trying to close down their businesses. What we're trying to do is improve the conditions under which animals are dealt.
Is there any chance that we could see those shocking images that we saw on Four Corners again? Is this something that the Rspca is conscious of?
Well, I think everybody's conscious of that, and the only way that we can really eradicate that sort of thing is to look at the conditions under which the animals are exported. And coming back to our stance on that, of course, we're against the export of live animals for slaughter, purely because we can't control the conditions. Since the Four Corners airing last year, where there was minimal stunning in minimal locations in the abattoirs in some of those countries we were mentioning. That has improved. We've still got quite a way to go, but there is a willingness by industry and by the government to actually get there. So in that way, it's very pleasing.
The Million Paws Walk, an outstanding success there for the Rspca.
It's a major fundraising event for the Rspca, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper, it goes right down to the very essence again of what people are turning up for. In other words, their desire to look after animals, to work in with them, to build them into their lives.
How much did you raise?
Still tallying up, but it's in the few hundred thousands. And again, it's how we exist. We don't exist if we don't raise the money. And I'll tell you, the community stands up every time and they turn out for us. It's fantastic.
Lynn, what is your vision for the Rspca as the National President over the next 12 months?
But what I'd personally like to see is that we engage the public a lot stronger in what our key messages are about certain animal welfare issues. So we need to tell the public, probably in slightly different ways, and be a little bit more vocal about where we stand on certain issues. And personally, I'm trying to lead that charge. Be a little bit louder, a little bit stronger, a little bit more often.
Lynn Bradshaw, thanks for joining Undercurrent.
Thanks, Nick.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Undercurrent. Thank you ever so much for your company tonight. And don't forget to join us again next week for more of the show made just for you, Western Australia's very own Undercurrent.
Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.